What's up, fight fans? I'm J.COTTO. Welcome to Late Night Boxing Talk. Hashtag come back to boxing. Today I'm bringing you the W.B.C. and Danny Garcia. See, Andre Berto is supposed to be the next contestant on The Price is Right. The question is, when? And if so, how is it that Berto is a mandatory? Because he fought Mayweather Jr.? Then at the same time, we have Amir Khan, who is ranked number 1 by the W.B.C. How is it that he was allowed to compete against Canelo Alvarez? Khan is now protesting and talking about wanting his title shot. Danny Garcia and trainer and father Angel Garcia have stated he would not give Khan a rematch. Khan has also come through and also went through a series of identity crisis, as he also wanted a match with UFC superstar Conor McGregor. I had stated that Amir should have stood on the pursuit to Garcia. This was before he suffered the devastating knockout by the hands of Canelo Alvarez. Andre Berto is a good fighter, a good competitor, but isn't the great fighter he should be, earning a huge payday in his career fighting Floyd Mayweather Jr. regardless of the loss. He has managed to make himself marketable in the prize fighting, or at least to the prize fighting part of today's boxing era. The WBC, along with other certain sanctioning bodies, have a tendency of not using or upholding their ranking system. This is the system that is supposed to bring order to a sanctioning body, to have order or ordinance towards the title. Many have and want to become accustomed to the Mayweather standard, as most fighters of today just choose their fighters and want big paydays. When there is a ranking system, the choices diminish as the sport becomes way more competitive. Champions used to meet the ranking number 1, 2, or 3 contenders, depending what sanctioning body's title they were ranked for. As the competitors became great and known, they became great and known as well, and their craft would be tested and upgraded as the competitiveness entertained the fight fans, the quality of the match, and carried the interest of the match. No matter who the fighter, their job is to fight. The promoters to promote, and the trainer to train. So therefore, the ranking systems are supposed to rank the fighters. All of these belts that fight fans have labeled alphabet belts are the products of confusion from not enforcing or using the ranking systems. They go by pound for pound lists now. How ridiculous is that? Then they wonder why these ridiculous matches that are happening are making you, most of us, produce excuses for these mismatches, as the media and promotions push their gimmicks and agendas on you, us. The IBF has had its fuck-ups, but they do use their ranking system, at least in the heavyweight division. The WBA just made a statement about the Golovkin-Brook fight not having a or the WBA championship up for grabs, because in reality, that's an exhibition. Now that's the prime example. Without no one saying I'm hating on this fight or any of the fighters, but let's take a look at this. Brook wasn't even ranked in the middleweight division in any sanctioning bodies, so it's an exhibition. If there was a strong ranking system and sanctioning bodies wouldn't fold for favors or politics, we wouldn't have to deal with the 155-pound Canelo weight or politics or the A or B side coming from these fighters. They'd have no choice. They wouldn't even be able to pick or choose. The fighters would be more accustomed to fighting and molding their careers. A ranking system would give champions lots of leverage, not as to picking their opponents, but as to negotiating the dollar value of the fight. The opponent would be worth as he or she would have worked hard and climbed those levels of boxing. So like before or yesteryear, the money would be there, especially in today's economics. There are so many fighters now walking around like free agents and trying to use their names to skip the line before hardworking prospects who are fighting in order to get that dollar. Rankings have folded to less risk, more reward, but the contradiction is right in front of our eyes and faces. As fights like Alvarez and Khan, Sulka Garcia, and perhaps Brook Golovkin are dangerous as well. Very. And this is very double standard. Most of you have seen most fighters forced into positions like this Brook and Golovkin match on account of other middleweight fighters not doing their jobs. The ranking system not doing its job. It's no wonder that fans like myself become very suspicious of champions and competitors who don't fight on account of failed drug tests, then sanctioning bodies being very unconclusive with punishments on rules and regulations that are then broken. From IV schemes, certain boxes, or family giving them high-ranked stature on or after long sabbaticals. How about fighters filling in certain spots to make the fight card worth and then give them a title shot after a loss, as well as manipulate the rankings in order to make that fight or fighter viable? The health of fighters are not to worry in ring, as the less risk, more reward rule is in play. Some knockouts occur, and cuts mostly happen from headbutts or headbutts from clinching or attempted clinches. I see a huge, and I usually do see huge contradictions over debate tables when most mention matches like Chavez Sr. versus Mayweather Jr. They always say Chavez fought no one or cab drivers. But let's be real here. Remember the word competitiveness. Well, one, Chavez's era was more than this one in every way. Most fighters would fall in the 12th or 13th of a 15-round fight. The cardio and grit from fighters back then was sick. Two, most of the 26 world champions Floyd fought were either one, forced up in weight, two, certain advantages had to be given to Mayweather Jr., and three, please explain to us Guerrero, Maidana 2 times, Berto, and many others. Not shitting on the man, just making a point. Because they too would have been cab drivers in that era, and they basically are in this one. A lot of double standards. But a ranking system brings order to boxing, and greed is what's killing it as well. Long relationships as to networks and promoters have been broken because of greed. Fighters, good quality fighters, are leaving promoters because of the greed. Perhaps it takes maybe one promoter and his stable to execute a cleansing in boxing. Maybe a promoter needs a fighter in every weight class, just one in every weight class who is dominant. One in the bantam, one fighter in lightweight, one fighter in the welterweight, one fighter in the middleweight division, one fighter in the lightweight division, etc., etc. Young, hungry, skilled, gifted athletes to take over, fight hard, to take the straps and start a revolution. The young fighters would all have straps in every division. Just imagine this. It could be 4 fighters in different weight classes, in those 4 weight classes. It would be better if they were undisputed and unified, so they could have all the power. And as the champs have the titles, the promoter who has signed this elite team can make things straight again. Fight by the ranking systems. Make fighters work their way up, making the straps and money an incentive. The promoter would give, or would then be able to negotiate monies to his or her fighter's worth. And as well, huge opportunities would never pass a great up-and-coming young talent by again. This promoter could also start up the Ali Act in order to really protect the fighter's financials. A health union could also be made from the funds of fans and sanctioning bodies as to working with health insurance companies for the welfare of the fighters. Free agent fighters could shop around, but once signed, nothing can be changed. Not one thing. And this is exactly what happens in today's era. And drug testing policies need to really be exercised. A definite list needs to be made so all managers, promoters, lawyers, fighters, trainers know what is legal and illegal for a fighter to have in their system. The excuse of fighters of today being better than most greats would be because of supplements or supplementations that they have today, etc., is the pure fact as to why they are not better than the greats if they need things to be better at what they do. Just an opinion. A ranking system ends the argument of almost every argument going on about boxing today. Had a ranking system been put away or put to play, I guarantee that most of today's undefeated fighters or champions would not be undefeated or champions today. A ranking system brings that competitive edge and makes fighters work hard. In today's eras, most fighters and Danny Garcia don't have this. And Danny Garcia is today's W.B.C welterweight champion. He has no defenses on it yet. The strap has been worn by the likes of Leonard, Hearns, Benitez, Camacho, etc. Now, can you actually say with a straight face that Garcia or any fighter before him after stalling have fought hard like these gentlemen in the past? I'm not ignoring or diminishing any of today's fighters' feats, but standards as to more money, less risks, with no legacy, what does that leave you? House, cars, money, okay. But then if you know and your fan base knows you don't fight hard, how can one be mad at the fact that you can't be in that fighting class or fighting bracket if you don't fight hard? Half of today's fighters in ring numbers as to rounds fought don't even add up to half or maybe half of some greats' fighting ethics. And I'm being real, not generous. Do the research, it's there. Most talk about experience. Most talk about the experience that their fighters have today. But someone like Garcia versus a Hector Camacho, even an Alexis Arguello or an Aaron Pryor would have destroyed him. The pedigree is too much. Would be too much. What about Morales? Taking nothing away, but Morales was finished and diminished, and we all know this. Had it been 4 years before, Garcia would have had problems. Ranking systems enforced is what these young fighters need. This will also harden up the fighters. Hashtag enforce the ranking systems. Hashtag come back to boxing. My name is J.COTTO. Thank you for joining Late Night Boxing Talk. God bless. Stay vigilant. Peace.